Fellow Ghanaians, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us here on Upfront on the Joy News channel. It's Wednesday, the 26th day of July 2023, a day that the NPP has done its balloting for its Flagbearership race. Now, it was a process that started in May 2023. But even before the start in May 2023, I'm sure for many of you, at the beginning of 2021, it was clear that the NPP's attention was focused on breaking the eight. Right after victory in election 2020, two candidates emerged. Yes, first was Vice President Dr. Bawumia, and then Alan Kwadwo Kyerematen. Both of them said they had what it took to ensure that the NPP breaks the eight, bearing in mind that in our Fourth Republic, no party has exceeded 2 terms. The NDC started in 1993 and left in 2001, handing over to the NPP's John Agyekum Kufuor. By 2005, President Kufuor had won his second term, and the NPP lost the 2008 election, leaving office in January 2009. Then came John Evans Atta Mills, and by 2012, he had passed on, and the NDC won again. At the time, we said, look, what was going to happen? Was this going to be the time that because all sitting presidents had actually won their re-election bid, he was also going to win his re-election bid? Well, that did not happen. He lost, giving credence to the fact that in Ghana, at best, 2 terms for every political party. And so you can understand why the stakes are high when it comes to the NPP's Flagbearership race. Well, it's not been all rosy, because you've had some aspirants complain. In fact, the balloting, which was expected to take place on Monday following the vetting committee and approval of all 10 persons who submitted their nomination forms and went through the vetting, was postponed after 9 of the 10 aspirants raised concerns. They said they wanted to know all the rules governing the elections before the balloting could take place. Now, these 9 aspirants, minus Dr. Bawumia, today had a meeting which included a representative of Dr. Bawumia, and at the end of it all, 7 aspirants were in the meeting. Dr. Bawumia wasn't there, Dr. Kofi Kennedy-Apreku wasn't there, and Joe Garte wasn't there. At the end of it all, Kennedy Ejapong is number 1. Alan John Kwadwo Kyerematen, number 2 on the ballot, Joe Garte, number 3, and as you can see on your screen, Kwadwo Poku, number 4, Dr. Uswefri Yakoto, number 5, Kwabena Ejapong, number 6, Honorable Francis Adainimo, number 7, Dr. Kofi Kennedy-Apreku, number 8, Mr. Boakye Kyerematen Jako, number 9, and Dr. Mamadou Bawumia, number 10. Already, the analysis have begun. For many, they say, Aseho. Others say, together we will win. It is no longer a TO, but it's 2 with GE. I don't know if you have expertise in numbers, but for me, the most important thing today is that prior to this, we've had some of the aspirants complain and raise questions about the process. The critical question today is, has the NPP in organizing this created doubts in the minds of some of these aspirants? Has the process so far been a free, fair, and transparent process? Can all the aspirants claim that everything has so far been fair? Or can the party itself say this process is free and fair? My name is Winston Amoah, and tonight we delve into the NPP's Flagbearership race. We look at the processes so far and ask these critical questions as I've already asked. Stay with us when we return after these messages. I'll introduce my guest, and then we get into the conversation. We'll be right back.
Joy News, Honorable, tell us, how did the meeting go? What number did you get, Honorable? You are live on Joy News, Honorable.
Everything went well. Now we've settled on the procedures and the processes for the primaries, for the elections, and we hope that we can be guaranteed a fair, transparent election so that we can work towards breaking the 8. Thank you very much.
I think everything went well. We just want to have a very sanitized election, and the Electoral Commission is in control of the process, and everything is going well.
I think we're the photo album yet?
Not yet, but they've told us that we can come and receive it from tomorrow. It's available. We bring our pen drives, we can pick it. So,
are you satisfied with the engagement with the elections committee?
Very, very satisfied.
What was your number on the ballot?
You want me to show it to you?
What was your number on the
Number 6.
Number 6. What does that mean to you?
It means I'm going to win.
Basically, the meeting discussed the modalities for the conduct of the special electoral college elections. What is being described as the superdelegates on August 26th. And then we also did the balloting. So we've discussed the modalities, the delegates for the special electoral college elections. We discussed the voting period, the voting time, which is prescribed, and voting designated centers in all the 16 regions.
Are you satisfied with the engagement with the elections committee?
Oh, sure, we are. So we are looking for free, fair, transparent process.
What was your number on the ballot?
Well, I picked number 7.
What does that mean to you?
Well, what is it? I mean, picking a number on the ballot paper doesn't mean anything.
Well, a number doesn't mean anything for Francis Adainimo. Kwabena Japan says, well, that's number 6. It means he's going to win. But for many of you, I'm sure, numbers mean a lot. Our focus is not on numbers. Our focus is on the process so far. Later on in the conversation, we'll be joined by the Director of Elections of the NPP and also a member of the Elections Committee, Evans Nimakon. But first, let me introduce my guest to you, Senior Lecturer at the Department of Political Science of the University of Ghana, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Dr. Asah-Asante, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us.
Listening?
If you could unmute your microphone so we can hear you.
Yeah, I've done that already. Can you hear me?
Yes, I think now? I can hear you now. And if you could speak a bit, speak up a little bit for us. Great. So, I mean, you've listened to the last part. You've watched the last part, and 3 of the aspirants seem to be saying the same thing. They make the point that all they want is the guarantee of a free and fair election. I'll ask you about that. But so far, let's look at the NPP's process right from the beginning to the balloting, which was supposed to have happened on Monday. That didn't happen because few concerns were raised. Now it's taking place. What's your general assessment of the process so far?
Yeah, I think so far, so very good, even though there were initial hiccups, but the party was able to put its foot down and has been able to maintain some level of sanity, and then the process is smooth. Let's look at the first issue that they dealt with, was the issue of the centralized nature of the polls, which a majority requested for. But the party said that already there is a precedent, so there's no point changing that precedent. So they maintain what already exists, so that they will do it in all the regions, the 16 regions, and they've come out with the modalities for that. That was a difficult one because there were a number of them. I think 9 of them were not in support of that decision. But at least they allow consensus to prevail, and then they took that decision in their strides, and then they move on. The second issue was the thorny issue of the campaign, which was getting, very nasty. That one is still on, even though the tone has come down a little bit, but we are not sure whether it's going to stop. But the good news is that the party has hinted that it's putting an ethics committee in place. I don't know whether they've started their work. And if that is to come on, then it's going to define the parameters in which the campaign will be conducted. It is a good thing if it will be implemented, in a sense that if they don't step in at this time, it will get murkier as they move on. And at the end of the day, they will engage in, character assassination, attacking each other, so to speak. And it will not bode well for a party that wants unity at this time, so as to galvanize the necessary support for its effort. And remember, when they destroy any of them, or they destroy themselves, at the end of the day, one will emerge victorious, and that person will have to lead the party. How are you going to package that person for the whole Ghana? Are you going to write a rejoinder to what you have said and all that? So I'm sure that that is one thing that is hanging. But at least a few days that I have followed the process, the tone, the insinuation and all that has come down. It's my hope and prayer that they will be able to stamp it or nib it in the bud, so that we'll have a campaign of issues, campaign of ideas and all that. And that brings me to the point that if you look at the campaign so far, we have seen some of them who have come out forcefully with the ideas and all that. For instance, Kennedy Japan has been speaking. I've been following him on the social media, and he's been coming out with fantastic ideas, all right? The type of ideas that will resonate with what delegate, for instance, his idea of what creating jobs with a cold store, with this, with that. He has said so many things. Kwabena Japan has also followed same with a lot of ideas, wonderful ones. We have also had Boatie Jakon with all the...
Hello, Dr. Asante. Okay, we'll try and get back to, senior political science lecturer at the University of Ghana, Dr. Asante. But we've been joined on phone by Evans Nimako, who's a member of the committee, and he's also the NPP's Director of Elections and Research. Evans, good evening, and thank you very much for joining us. Good evening, and thank you for having me. Great. So we know that on Monday there were a few issues here and there. The aspirants had petitioned. They wanted to hold further discussions. The discussions have been held. And they say that, they've agreed on the modalities for the conduct of the special, elections or super delegates conference, as many have termed it. What are these modalities that have been agreed on?
Well, thank you very much. The new Patriotic Party, we will listen to all stakeholders, and that's exactly what the Presidential Election Committee has done. When we met on Monday, which was the very day the committee was inaugurated by the National Chairman and General Secretary, the concerns that came to us from the agents of the principals were that they needed to have some conversations with us and then see the way forward. Already the committee had planned meeting them today, and so today is being fulfilled. The concerns of the principals has to do with the management of the whole process. Elections is just not an event, it's a process. From the point of the composition of the register to the point of voting and declaration of results. And so these were the concerns that the principals brought, and we've been able to address them. We're starting at the point when we were joined by the Electoral Commission. They can all attest to the fact that we've had a very fair, free, transparent process, and it's going to be so until the elections is done for the phase 3 special electoral college.
Great. Now, when you talk about, we're going to hold a meeting today, I'm just curious. Let's get a few things straight. Now, you are going to hold a meeting today and address issues with them. So how come that they didn't wait till today and requested that the balloting be postponed? Also, did you inform them? At what point did you inform them? And thirdly, why would you want to engage in a balloting before engaging them on the modalities?
Well, it's a legitimate question. Mm-hmm. But as I said, the National Executive Committee and National Council met last week Thursday. Mm-hmm. Committee was put together. It was inaugurated on Monday. And per the party's timeline, Monday was supposed to be the inauguration of the committee as well as engagement with the aspirants by the committee and the conduct of ballots to enable Electoral Commission produce the what we call the notice of poll, as well as to go ahead and get the ballot papers printed. It is also not out of place for the principals to demand a meeting with the committee. Bear in mind that they had submitted 2 proposals to the National Council, which were not so much considered, in view of the fact that those issues were still going to be consideration by the National Council of the party. That having been done, it is important that the Presidential Elections Committee continue engagement with the candidates, so that in an event that they have some misgivings, areas to be addressed, all those ones can come to board for the committee and the principals to address them. This is an in-house internal primary, and it is important that all concerns by stakeholders are addressed. So it is one of the reasons why the Presidential Elections Committee tabled that we are going to have continuous engagement with the presidential aspirants, so that by the time we conclude the conduct of the Special Electoral College, all parties will appreciate the way and manner with which the exercise was conducted.
Great, yes, but my point is that, okay, so you knew on Monday your plan was to meet them, okay, first inaugurate the committee, meet them, and ballot. If that was your plan, why couldn't you hold that meeting and it had to be postponed till today?
My brother, what I would say is that nothing has changed. The party has put together a committee clothed with authority. If you look at Article 13, 2 of the party's constitution, that mandates the National Executive Committee and National Council to conduct and organize this Special Electoral College. This authority has been given to the Presidential Elections Committee. We will not do things out of the blue. We will engage party people, especially the presidential aspirants, so that if they have any concerns, we will be able to address them together. It was Monday. We agreed with them that whatever issue they have, they can submit them today. We met today, thankfully, and all issues have been resolved. I don't think this hurts the party in any way. It's also to let you know that the elections committee put together by the party is ready to engage these principals who, to a large extent, are senior party members of the party, knows how party machinery runs. Their concern is how are you going to conduct this whole exercise? When are you giving us the register? When are you getting the modalities? When is the EC coming in? Issues of security. These are legitimate concerns that needed to be addressed. And it's done so.
So when are they getting the register?
Oh, we today, as we completed the meeting, or we ended the meeting, they were assured that if any of them have a flash drive or could get their agent to the party headquarters, they'll be furnished with the register.
So the register is ready. They can have it beginning today.
Yes.
Okay. But I mean, before we continue, let me just get your views on this. Now, I've just played a video of 3 of the aspirants, Kwabena Japong, Alan Tramanting, and Francis Adainimu, and they seem to be saying the same thing, that they want to have a free, fair, transparent election. For many, they ask the simple question, or they've been concerned about the process so far, and the fact that you have 9 aspirants consistently saying the same thing and believing that the party is favoring one person. How does the party respond to this view that the party favors one out of the 10 candidates?
My brother, let us not reinvest the concerns of the presidential candidates have been addressed today. Issue of elections is not just event. It is a process. And I've taken you through that the party constitution, when it comes to the special electoral college, is specific on people who are supposed to participate in this special electoral college. Aspirants will be given copy of the register so that they can appraise themselves with the album for the special electoral college. Beyond the album is the printing of the ballot papers. They've been assured that the EC, which has the mandate per our arrangement to get it organized, will get them to have their agents coming to monitor the printing of the ballot. 3, the D-Day, which is the 26th of August 2023 election day, they are going to be giving accreditation for their agents. And it is mainly those who have their names in the album who will be eligible to get to the voting center to vote. And so all those fears that they've expressed, today we've discussed it. And so the demand for free, fair, and transparent elections is legitimate, and that they are going to have. What the party also required of them is also to respect and adhere to the rules of engagement, i.e. the code of conduct, i.e. to respect the oath they sworn that they will comply with the dictates of the rules and regulations as well as the rules of engagement. And so it's a two-way affair. The party is making sure that we organize free, fair, transparent elections. They are also expected to respect the party's rules of engagement. And I can assure you, and I'm happy today, we are giving more light, showing more light into the process that has gone.
Yes, but Evans, that's understood. But the question I asked you is your response to the view out there that the party favors one candidate with amongst the 10. What's your answer to that?
My brother, there's no iota of truth in the question you asked. If you are participating in this process, what the party is supposed to give you in terms of what you need to go through the process has been given. They came, what forms appeared before the vetting committee, they were vetted, their recommendations were given to the National Council. National Council approved the recommendation of the Elections Committee. They are all in the process. Where lies the argument, which is unfounded, that somebody is being given special treatment? I don't want us to spend too much of our energy on that issue. I can assure you that the party so far has been fair to all parties. The process has been very transparent, and we can assure all stakeholders that the committee will continue to conduct itself in a manner that will not give opportunity to any one of them to raise concerns about these unfounded fears and arrangements to support one candidate. I don't think that's what the party is after.
Hold on a minute. I'll get back to you. Let me just bring in Dr. Asah-Asante, who's rejoined us. Dr. Asah-Asante, I mean, and I know you've been following the election. You've been following the processes so far. Do you get the impression that for the 9 aspirants, the party seems to be favoring one candidate? Okay, so we've lost, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Will try and, get back with him and, get his views on this. But let me just get back to you, Evans Nimako, who's Director of Elections and Research of the NPP. He's also, a member of the Elections Committee. So now we are done with the balloting. What next?
So what we do now is for EC to make contact with the printers to get the notice of vote done, and to go ahead and get the ballot printed. And the candidates are going to have their agents accredited to be at the printing house and to ensure that what is supposed to be on the ballot is exactly the same as the candidate submitted to the committee. But beyond that, we've given timelines for submission of a policy application. The party is saying by 2nd of August 2023, those who intend to apply for policy must do so. And once the policy list is done, aspirants will be given copies of them. The person to be appointed as policy must also be a delegate. And so these are some of the things that the party is going to do, and at any point in time, the principals will be put on notice.
Okay, I'll get back to you. Let me bring in Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. So, Dr. Asah-Asante, I was asking earlier that, having monitored the election, do you also get the impression that the party seems to be favoring one candidate and against the other nine candidates?
We have heard that, and the little that we have picked on the ground point to something like that. But you see, yes, we have seen people who are in parliament saying that the whole lot of people following the vice president, they themselves, the party, the contestants, have complained bitterly about the establishment favoring one person and all that. It is my hope and prayer that this will not be a reality, and that the party will be able to make sure that the process is free, fair, and the electoral playing field is clean for everybody. So that is what, but for me, whether you are incumbent or there is somebody that the people favor and all that, the real issue is how you are able to organize your campaign, how you are able to galvanize support, your contact with the delegates and all that. You are aware of what the party needs and you are ready to provide that. And you are convinced within yourself that your message will resonate with the people and they'll give you the vote. Because some of these things are nothing but what? Propaganda gimmick. And it's playing out here.
But while you talk about this being a propaganda game playing out also, there are those who have argued that, look, out there, some persons are being intimidated. And that's why they're actually calling for a centralized election so that, you wouldn't know, for instance, how somebody votes. And so couldn't this be reality, Dr. Asah-Asante? Okay, I think we've lost Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, the connectivity giving us an issue or two. Let's see if we still have, Evans Nimako there, who's the Director of Elections. Evans, you've talked about the proxy votes, but let me just get to understand also. And so on the day of election, what time is it starting and what time is it ending?
The committee indicated to the principal that it will start at 1 p.m., 9 a.m. and closes at 2 p.m.
Okay, so 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And you're expected to, declare the results by 3, 4 p.m.?
This process, I've mentioned to you that the Electoral Commission will take charge of the process. And so from the point when the conference is open at the regional level, which is the Special Electoral College, it is handed over to the Electoral Commission.
Okay.
The management of the whole process will be done by the UC. Security at the venue will be managed by the Ghana Police Service. And so we ensure that delegates will also respect the guidelines that the committee and the UC as well as the candidates have fashioned out for this exercise. And so as to when results will be announced, I want us to leave that to the UC. But what is clear to all parties is that this process has so far been very fair, it's been free, it's been transparent. I want us to discard this whole idea that there is a certain arrangement to work out a plan to steer it towards a particular candidate. Please, we sat as National Executive Committee, National Council with the principal. Committee was put together to ensure that this exercise is completed. And beyond the 26th, the party is going to organize the November 4, 2023 primary. And so there's a lot to be done. In a situation where people sit and try to create certain hypotheses and are seeking answers, I don't think that will suffice. What is key is that today, when the Presidential Elections Committee met with the principal, i.e. the presidential aspirants, they are all going home with some level of confidence in the committee, as well as in themselves, that the process that they've been passed at this stage in the discussion has been verified. I don't think any of them can come to you to raise issue even as of the time they were buying the nomination form, so they got to the point of vetting. And so the party seeks to conduct a very free, fair, transparent internal primary that will elect for us our presidential candidate that the party will sponsor to win elections 2024. And so for those who sit back and seek to create a certain hypothesis that will generate disaffection for the party, I can assure you they will not survive.
But, talking about this, and I'm sure you may have seen, Boache Jacko, for instance, say that they believe that the establishment candidate, there's an establishment candidate, and so in a runoff, each of them have been talking to support a particular candidate. He says there is an establishment candidate. An establishment here is a system candidate. You dispute that?
My brother, the party, before nominations were open for presidential and parliamentary, came out with a code of conduct, with a committee, a 3-man committee that includes the General Secretary, the Chairman of the National Council of Elders, Honorable Hasmarusa Junai, our Chairman of Legal and Constitutional Committee, Frank Davis Esquire. And the party is aware that if anybody has a concern, that is the right place to table your concern. Beyond that, these are aspirants who have shown clear interest, consent to be part of this process. They bought their nomination form, they appeared before the vetting committee, they've been recommended, they've been approved by National Council. If any of them has a concern, there's a place to table it. I want at this point to move away from that discussion that the party has an established candidate. National Council did not say the candidate for the primaries for acclamation is Mr. A or Mr. C. It says there is going to be special electoral college to select 5 people for main elections on 4th of November. I think we need to depart from these kind of discussions that do not inure to the party's benefit in any way. If any of them has a concern, there is a place to table it. And I can assure you, and listeners and viewers, that the party has so far conducted the process that everybody will hit the chest and say, this has been fair to all parties.
Okay, so let me ask you a simple question. Now, you want to have 5 persons selected, assuming that you have the first 4, and then the 5th and 6th have the same number of votes. What would you do?
Yes, so we discussed with the principal. We told them in an event of tie, they'll be runoff.
Oh, really? So if the runoff, hold on a second. Let me get this. In the event of a tie, even within the special delegates conference, there'll be a runoff.
The party seeks to elect 5 people maximum for the elections on the 4th of November 2023. The party will conduct an exercise that will give us the 5 people for that exercise. And so we are ready to go through it. And that has been discussed plainly with all the candidates.
That in case at the end of it, those who qualify, and there's a tie making it more than 5, the party would go through a runoff.
all the candidates can attest to you that the issue came up and you concluded that the party will conduct an exercise that will give us 5 maximum candidates for the main election.
And that exercise would be the runoff, election throughout the country.
If we have to conduct a runoff, the party will get that done.
Let me get the clarification here. Is it the case that the party hasn't decided or the party isn't clear what it will do under that circumstance?
The party constitution is clear that the Special Electoral College must elect 5 people where there are more than 5 for the main election. They said, today it was discussed among the principals by the committee that in an event of tie or whatever, it is the mandate of the party to ensure that we have 5 people elected for the November 4, 2023 election.
Yes, I mean, Evans Dimako, finally on this, let's get the clarity here. I know that if your party goes to elect a flag bearer during the main election and nobody gets more than 50%, there's supposed to be a runoff. Somebody could decide to pull out and it means one person goes through. I am asking the simple question. If there is a tie making the number more than 5, are you going to go through a runoff? What are the processes available? What are the options available to the party? That's what I want to know.
Thank you, my brother. It is simple. The exercise will be conducted by the EC. When there's a tie, the party will conduct a runoff to break the tie.
Okay, so that's what I was looking for. Please hold on for me. Let me get to, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, and I'll get back to you on this whole, even a runoff thing and look at the constitutional provisions here and there. But Dr. Asah-Asante, you were earlier talking about, this whole idea of somebody being favored, being, propaganda. How is it propaganda when, one of the aspirants says 8 of them have been communicating, and in the case of a runoff, they would support one of them against the system's candidate or the establishment's candidate?
Please, can you give me a gist of the I missed the last point of your...
No, I was asking that, you've said that this is just propaganda, and I am saying that how can it be propaganda when, one of the aspirants has made it very clear that in the case of a runoff, 8 of them have been talking, and they are prepared to support one of them against whom they describe as the establishment's candidate.
Yeah, the propaganda I was telling you about was the fact that if you listen to some of the people, they are saying that most of the members of parliament are with Dr. Bawumia, the party machinery and all that. So my question is it the case that virtually everybody is, has rooted for him? It can be the case. But even if granted, let us just for purposes of argument, let's say that it is true. The real issues are the issue involving your messages, your strategy, and the rest of them. Because of the special position that the Vice President occupies as a Vice President and so an incumbent and is contesting. So obviously there are people who will root for him, not necessarily that when it gets to the 11th hour, they will vote for him. It's not the case. So I believe that some of these things, yes, it will come into the system. But those who are contesting, I'm sure they are resolved that they are moving on with their campaign, and then they are making sure that any undue advantage will not be created for anybody to benefit from. And that is the story. If you look at their poster this evening about how the processes went, they are all fine about it. And I'm sure that they are going to follow through the rest of the processes so that they will get to the bottom and make sure that the whole process is free and fair.
Mm. When you say that, okay, he's in government, a lot of people will follow him, but at the end of the day, it doesn't mean that they're going to vote for him. Are you suggesting that there could be some people deceiving certain candidates, and in this case, you're suggesting that these people are deceiving the vice president, that they support him?
Oh, in elections, you should expect that. People will root for you. I'm sure you and I are so alive to Sir John's statement of what fear delegate. Delegate will give you all manner of hope. But when it comes to the real voting, you see the one who emerged victorious. Then after that, you'll be able to put bits and pieces together and do analysis. This is not different from any election we have seen. People will root for you because you are what? Doling out resources, because your message is okay, because they think that you are for the people and the rest of them. But the real issue is what translates. All these things must translate into vote, and that will be determined at the polls. So for me, all these things are part of the antics. If you are afraid, and it can cow you into submission, but you need to be focused and then get your act together and then wage the campaign with all the seriousness that you deserve. That is the way to go.
So far, who's impressed you in the campaign?
So far, let me say that apart from last week and last week where we had a little of accusation and counter-accusation and attacks, it has died down. But I must say that I have not been able to follow all of them because I am always engaged in classroom and all that. But a few that I've listened to, I'm sure they have impressed me. Somebody like Boatie Jafu, he has come out beautifully with ideas and all that. I have also listened to Kwabena Japan, fantastic ideas and all that. The Vice President, yes, he speaks with all the power that he has at his disposal and ideas. Kennedy Japan, fantastic, and all that. I have not got the time to listen to Ada anymore, Mr. Poku, and the rest of it. But I'm sure that they have their messages that they are churning out, and it's gaining ground for them.
I mean, you've talked about these persons giving you, you being excited with the campaign messages of these persons. Would you then say that, yes, the NPP learned lessons from 2007, but based on all these persons, this person should get the chance to be, voted for by the larger population and not just a select few choosing 5 for them to go meet, the larger delegates?
They have a Herculean task. The task is that they are able to walk this easy path and get somebody elected who will, appeal to not only the people of the NPP tradition, but Ghanaians at large. You want to also make sure that all the challenges that confront you now, you want to be able to deal with them so that they don't become the building blocks for campaign against you. And the greatest headache for them is how to manage the economy so as to be able to touch in on that during campaign. That is a daunting task for the party, I must be honest about that. But I'm sure that they also have looked at the way forward to some of these things. On top of it, they want to also make sure that after the election, obviously when you go for elections, there are conflicts, there are disagreements and all that. How do you get them resolved? I'm sure the party has put in place a mechanism to deal with this. Last election, we saw that immediately after their primaries and all that, they were able to mend their differences and all that because your ability to be able to handle this thing maturely gives you the edge to be able to call out these people to come and follow you and then root or pledge your support for the person who is leading the party. It's critical. And I'm sure that all these things are part of their calculation that those political actors are looking at and advising the party from time to time.
Yeah, but my question is, I mean, you've talked about how these, aspirants that you have listened to have good campaign messages. I am asking, we've seen it in other parts of the world. I mean, when you have, they start the process, and by the end of it, if you go through a decentralized election, over there in the United States, for instance, it starts in somewhere in January, February, and by the time you go through the first states, if you are a contender or a pretender, and you either would continue or you drop out of the race. I'm asking you, would you have preferred the situation where the NPP presented all these 10 to the delegates for them to make a choice?
Oh, I think this selection is good because if we are to learn from Hamilton, one of the political thinkers, he says that when election is done by a few people, the selection is perfect, it's the best, all right? You are getting about less than 900 people who are going to vote. It's quite a small number, and they are going to whittle down this 10 to 5. Obviously, the selection is going to be what? Beautiful, is going to be perfect, and is going to be the one that will ginger everybody to go in for the last year. So I have no doubt in my mind that this one is good because it narrows down the process and then putting the best for the final lap. So this, ladder or the layer that they introduced, I think that it's a very good teasing process and is going to bring out the best of all the 10 so that finally you present the 5 and then the party decide on one. I think for me, from where I sit, is the best if we are to follow what Hamilton has advised us when we're talking about what? Election by the Electoral College.
But if you want to follow that also, then wouldn't you argue that if that's the case, then you might as well get the few to elect a flag bearer and not then reduce the number to 5 and send it to the majority to over 200,000 to vote for them?
Rome was not built in a day. I'm sure that NPP did not start with this process from the beginning. So I'm sure that gradually they will perfect the system. But if the system is working for them, why would they want to change it? All right, unless of course there are difficulties. But if there are difficulties, I'm sure they will be quick to respond to the changing circumstances of the time.
Let me bring in, Evans Nimakuma at this point. Evans, and I'll I'll wrap up with you with this question because I asked Dr. Asasante the question that he's talked about, and I've heard many of you say that anybody who comes up and who emerges victorious, from the NPP can beat the NDC's John Dramani Mahama. Shouldn't that be the reason the NPP should be considering this whole, super delegates conference and reducing the number to 5? Yes, that was something that was started in 2010 because, and even then in 2010, there were 5, so you didn't need a super delegates conference. But in 2014, you needed a super delegates conference. And that was in reaction to 2007. Going forward, shouldn't the NPP be considering moving away from this provision? I just want your take, your personal view on this.
Well, thank you. For now, you said you go to war with the army you have. Our constitutional provision is that you need to do what we call the sieving by the Special Electoral College. It means that it's the body with the mandate. You should know the history of the party, where we have gotten that huge number in 2007. And so, yes, going forward, let's scale through this process this time. Let's see what the future holds for us. The party will always undertake a review exercise to assess the gains and otherwise of any event. And so we are open for further engagement on how the party will make such internal arrangements befitting to all stakeholders. And so before I will leave you, the committee has assured the presidential candidate that all their fears will be addressed in terms of how free, how transparent the exercise will be conducted. It is the reason why even today they were made to participate and go through the exercise and even to have the Electoral Commission part of the process. This tells you that the committee is ready to help conduct an exercise that will give the new patriotic party the candidates that the party rank and file will support for us to win the 2024 presidential election. And so, as I said earlier, we've set timelines. We are going strictly by it. We have had to accommodate engagement with the principals. On 21st of August 2023, when the exercise will take place in all the 16 voting centers across the country, as well as the headquarters, starting from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Hold on. You said 2 p.m. earlier. Now you're saying 1 p.m. Which is which?
9 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Okay.
Aspirants will be given accreditation. Their agents will be accredited at all regional voting centers as well as the collation center at the headquarters. They will be given the album to verify, and if they have any concerns, they cross-check with the elections committee. The EC will start printing of ballots soon, and aspirants will be required to submit names of their agents. And this process will continue to be transparent, open, and fair to all stakeholders. The New Patriotic Party is in it again to conduct an exercise that at the end of it will bring all hands on deck for the party to once again win handsomely the election 2024. And so, irrespective of who the NDC candidate is, the New Patriotic Party's presidential candidate will be the one that the whole of Ghana will give the mandate to rule come December 7, 2024.
Thank you very much, Evans Nimakun, who is Director of Elections and Research of the NPP. And also thank you to you, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante, Senior Lecturer Political Science at the University of Ghana. On behalf of the team, thank you very much for joining us. My name is Winston Amoah. Coming up is Joy News Prime. Stay with us.